Right now, high above the scorched pine forests of southern Europe, a terrifying storm is growing inside a clear blue sky. It does not bring cool water or refreshing air to the burning towns below. Instead, this giant monster cloud is born directly from the massive heat underneath it, spitting sharp flashes of lightning and raining red-hot ashes over everything in sight. Emergency crews on the ground watch in total disbelief as the blaze invades the atmosphere, turning the sky itself into an active enemy. If you want to master the strange science behind our changing world without any exaggerated hype, take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button right now. Joining our growing community of curious minds means you will always be the first to know when nature breaks its own rules. We dive deep into real facts so you can stay informed about the biggest events on Earth. To truly understand why Southern Europe is facing such an unprecedented crisis today, we have to look back at how wildfires used to behave in this region. For hundreds of years, countries like Spain, France, and Italy were used to warm, dry summers. Local communities knew how to live alongside summer heat, and small forest fires were actually a normal part of the natural cycle. Fires would occasionally spark in dry grass, burn out small underbrush, and then fade away before doing major damage to large trees or historic towns. Scientists and forestry experts spent decades studying these predictable seasonal patterns. They built containment strategies based on the idea that a wildfire would move at a steady speed, follow the direction of the wind, and stop when it ran out of dry grass or hit a wide dirt road. Emergency services could easily predict where the flames were heading next and clear out nearby villages with plenty of time to spare. Firefighting was certainly dangerous, but it was a manageable challenge with clear rules that everyone understood. However, over the past few years, those old rules have completely broken down across the Mediterranean basin. What is happening right now in places like the Gironde region of France, the provinces of Toledo and Guadalajara in Spain, and the island of Sicily in Italy looks nothing like the past. Fires are no longer just creeping across the ground or burning a few acres of woodland. They are transforming into massive infernos that destroy thousands of hectares of land in a matter of hours, defying every traditional method of control. When emergency responders first raced to the scene of these recent outbreaks, they expected to face standard summer blazes that could be contained using aircraft and ground lines. But as they got closer, they realized they were staring at a completely different kind of monster. The flames were moving faster than a running man, jumping across wide highways and creating their own howling winds. Researchers who analyze Earth observation data quickly realized that Europe had entered a dangerous new era of fire behavior that science is only beginning to fully comprehend. To break down why these blazes are so destructive, we must start with the first major surprise that stumped environmental researchers. For a long time, the general public believed that severe wildfires were caused simply by a lack of rain during the summer months. The common assumption was straightforward. If winter and spring are rainy, the land stays safe. But if winter is dry, the summer brings fires. Based on that logic, a wet winter should act as a protective shield for forests, keeping plants soaked and safe from ignition. However, satellite data collected by the Copernicus Earth Observation System revealed a shocking reality that proved the old assumption completely wrong. A wet, mild winter actually supercharges the wildfire danger for the following summer. When heavy rains hit regions like southern France and northern Spain early in the year, plants go into overdrive, growing tall grass, dense bushes, and thick green leaves across millions of acres. This creates a massive ocean of living vegetation covering the forest floor, waiting for the weather to turn. When an extreme heat wave suddenly slams into that same region a few months later, all that lush green plant life dries out in a matter of days. Scientists call this violent atmospheric shift climate whiplash. Instead of having a normal forest with scattered dry patches, the landscape becomes packed with endless tons of bone-dry fuel. The wet winter does not protect the land, it secretly prepares the ultimate gunpowder trail. When a single spark hits that dried-out vegetation, the fire spreads 10 times faster than it would in a normal dry year. Did you know that a rainy spring could actually make summer wildfires much more dangerous than a total drought? If this fascinating climate puzzle surprises you, make sure to hit the like button right away and subscribe to help spread real science to more viewers. Your quick support helps us keep bringing you deep, accurate stories about the extreme hidden forces shaping our planet today. To understand how fast a landscape can transform under these conditions, we have to look at the actual numbers recorded during recent summer heat waves across southern Europe. In places like Andalusia, in Spain and Sicily and Italy, air temperatures spiked well above 40 degrees Celsius, which is over 104 degrees Fahrenheit. At the same time, relative humidity levels dropped into the single digits, creating air so dry that it sucked every last drop of water directly out of the soil and plant leaves. Most people assume that trees are tough organisms that can easily withstand a few weeks of scorching sunshine without any trouble. Forestry experts used to believe that healthy pine and oak trees retained enough internal moisture to resist catching fire unless directly exposed to heavy flames for a long time. They expected the living forest canopy to act as a natural barrier, slowing down small fires and preventing them from reaching the crowns of the trees. What scientists actually discovered during recent field investigations surprised even the most experienced researchers on the continent. When extreme heat persists for weeks on end, living trees enter a state of severe physiological stress, where they essentially stop functioning. The trees draw all remaining water into their core to survive, leaving their outer leaves, needles, and bark completely dried out. In plain terms, the living forest transforms into standing timber that is just as dry and flammable as dead firewood sitting in a lumberyard. A detailed scientific analysis conducted by the World Weather Attribution Consortium analyzed weather records from across the Mediterranean to figure out how unusual this situation really is. Their findings were alarming to say the least. The researchers calculated that human-caused climate shifts made these hot, dry, and windy fire conditions at least 20 times more likely in Spain and twice as likely in France compared to a century ago. What used to be a once-in-a-lifetime extreme event has now become an expected summer reality. Dr. Claire Barnes, a top climate researcher at Imperial College London who worked on the study, pointed out that these extreme fire conditions are arriving much earlier in the year than ever recorded in modern history. In the past, the most dangerous wildfire period was restricted to late August, when the summer had fully worn down the land. Today, massive megafires are breaking out in early July, leaving emergency services struggling to cope with months of high danger ahead of them while temperatures continue to climb higher. This brings us to a major escalation in the crisis, where the sheer size and intensity of the flames begin to defy traditional physics. When a wildfire grows beyond a certain threshold, firefighters encounter a phenomenon known as a sixth-generation fire. For decades, the standard response to a forest fire was to send in specialized airplanes and helicopters to drop thousands of gallons of water and red flame-retardant chemicals directly onto the front edge of the blaze. The original expectation was that these aerial water drops would cool down the flames, raise the moisture level of the surrounding trees, and buy time for ground crews to construct dirt fire breaks. In smaller fires, this strategy works brilliantly and saves countless lives and homes every single year. Pilots fly low over the tree line, dump their payload with pinpoint accuracy, and turn around to reload at nearby lakes or seacoasts. However, what firefighters are witnessing right now in the thick pine forests of southwestern France and central Spain has shattered that expectation completely. The heat generated by these sixth-generation fires is so blindingly intense that the air temperature above the forest reaches over 1,000 degrees Celsius. When water-bombing aircraft try to fly over to drop their water, the extreme thermal updraft creates violent turbulence that threatens to tear the planes apart in midair. Even worse, when water is dropped into this superheated column of air, the liquid evaporates instantly before it can even touch the burning trees below. The water turns to steam hundreds of feet in the air, rendering multi-million-dollar firefighting aircraft almost completely useless against the core of the fire. Ground crews are forced to watch as their most powerful aerial tools fail to make even a tiny dent in the advancing wall of flame. Have you ever seen a fire so intense that it makes falling water turn into steam before hitting the ground? Tell us what you think about this extreme phenomenon in the comments section below, and take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your comments help drive the conversation and bring these critical environmental discoveries to curious people all over the world. Now pay very close attention to this next detail, because it explains the absolute scariest phenomenon occurring in Europe's skies today. When a wildfire reaches this extreme level of energy output, it stops merely reacting to the local weather and starts actively creating its own weather systems. This incredible transition happens through the formation of what scientists call a pyrocumulonimbus cloud, or simply a pyro-CB fire cloud. To picture how a fire cloud works, imagine the blaze acting like a giant supercharged chimney sitting on the surface of the earth. As thousands of acres of forest burn simultaneously, immense columns of hot air, black smoke, ash, and moisture from burning wood rise rapidly into the atmosphere. This rising air speeds upward at over 100 kilometers per hour, punching straight through the lower layers of the sky and soaring 10 kilometers high into the upper atmosphere. As this massive smoke column reaches the freezing altitudes high above the earth, the water vapor inside it rapidly cools down and condenses around floating ash particles. This creates a giant dark thundercloud that looks remarkably similar to the mushroom cloud produced by a massive explosion. But unlike a normal rain cloud that brings relief, this fire cloud is packed with immense thermal energy and unstable electrical charges generated by colliding ice crystals and burning debris. What happens next is a nightmare scenario for anyone trying to survive on the ground beneath it. The fire cloud becomes so heavy and unstable that it begins to generate its own violent lightning strikes. However, instead of rain falling from the storm, the intense heat below evaporates any moisture long before it reaches the surface. You're left with a dry thunderstorm that shoots bolts of electrical lightning down into parched, unburnt forests miles away from the main fire. At the exact same time, the powerful upward suction of the fire cloud creates a low-pressure vacuum near the ground. Surrounding air rushes in from every direction to fill this vacuum, producing sudden, chaotic winds that blow at gale force speeds. These erratic winds feed fresh oxygen directly into the base of the fire, turning a steady blaze into a raging tornado of heat that can suddenly change direction without any warning whatsoever. Even more dangerous is the fact that these violent updrafts lift burning tree bark, pine cones, and heavy red-hot embers thousands of feet into the air. The fire cloud acts as an atmospheric catapult, carrying these burning projectiles high above the ground and dropping them several kilometers ahead of the main fire line. This process, known as spot firing, allows the inferno to leap over wide rivers, multi-lane highways, and concrete fire barriers effortlessly. For a long time, atmospheric scientists believed that fire clouds were extremely rare phenomena that only occurred in vast, wild wilderness areas like the Australian outback or the massive boreal forests of northern Canada. The standard assumption was that Europe's milder climate, smaller forest patches, and dense human infrastructure would prevent fires from ever gaining enough heat energy to trigger a full-scale pyro-CB storm in the sky, keeping such dangerous atmospheric events far away from populated cities. That long-held belief was crushed recently when French emergency authorities documented what is believed to be the country's first confirmed pyrocumulonimbus cloud formed during a blaze near Bordeaux. In the seaside community of Le Porge, a fierce fire tore through more than 2,000 hectares of seaside pine forest in a matter of hours. The area burned was roughly 3 times the size of Gibraltar, producing a smoke column so massive that it turned afternoon daylight into pitch darkness for residents. Eyewitnesses in nearby villages reported looking up at the sky and seeing a monstrous black and purple cloud towering over the coast, with bright flashes of internal lightning illuminating the thick smoke. The fire cloud was generating its own wind currents, bending massive pine trees like toothpicks and scattering shower after shower of burning sparks over surrounding holiday resorts. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that European fires have crossed a dangerous ecological threshold. Would you ever expect a forest fire to grow so powerful that it creates a thunderstorm capable of shooting lightning back down at the trees? If this wild scientific discovery blows your mind, click that like button right now and hit subscribe to join our channel. Sharing these incredible real-world events helps our community grow and keeps everyone updated on the changing forces of nature. To understand the sheer geographical scale of this ongoing disaster, we have to examine what is taking place across Spain, where firefighters are fighting multiple massive fronts at the exact same time. In the province of Guadalajara, located just 100 kilometers north of Madrid, a relentless blaze consumed more than 32,000 hectares of land in a single week. To put that number into perspective, that is an area nearly 4 times the size of the entire city of Paris burned to ash. Meanwhile, south of Madrid, near the historic city of Toledo, another rapid outbreak forced authorities to order the immediate evacuation of entire suburban districts. Emergency services rushed into towns like Villa del Prado, telling thousands of frightened families to leave their homes as a wall of fire advanced across the nearby hillsides. Roads were shut down, thick black smoke choked the air, and residents could only watch from far away as water helicopters tried desperately to save their property. Crossing the Mediterranean Sea over to Italy, the situation on the island of Sicily reached a critical breaking point. Over 6,000 firefighters, forest guards, and civil protection officers were deployed across the island to battle dozens of simultaneous blazes breaking out in blistering 40-degree heat. The Italian Civil Protection Agency reported that the fires were being supercharged by extremely dry soil and powerful coastal winds, making traditional containment lines nearly impossible to hold, while waterbombing aircraft struggled against turbulent air. In the neighboring Italian region of Calabria, authorities uncovered an even darker element contributing to the spread of the flames. Local emergency officials revealed that many of the blazes were not starting by accident, but were being deliberately set by malicious arsonists taking advantage of the extreme weather conditions. Investigators discovered shocking evidence of individuals using flammable liquids and crude delay devices to ignite dry brush in multiple locations at once, stretching emergency resources to their absolute limit. Back in southwestern France, the human impact reached holiday resorts and tourist destinations that are usually bustling with summer vacationers. More than 10,000 tourists had to be evacuated from seaside camping sites near Bordeaux as flames swept through dense pine forests towards the coast. At the same time, tragedy struck the emergency response teams as 2 brave firefighters lost their lives while tackling a severe outbreak near the Bordeaux airport, sparking calls from worker unions about extreme physical exhaustion among crews. This brings us to another critical aspect of this crisis that affects people who live hundreds of miles away from the nearest flame: the unseen danger of toxic smoke transport. Most people assume that wildfire smoke is just natural wood burning, similar to the smoke from a cozy backyard campfire. They think that once you are a few miles away from the flames, the air becomes completely safe to breathe again as the smoke dilutes into the sky. However, advanced atmospheric monitoring conducted by environmental agencies has revealed a much more concerning reality. The smoke produced by high-intensity megafires contains millions of tons of microscopic particulate matter, carbon monoxide, and toxic chemicals released by burning buildings, vehicles, and synthetic materials. Because the intense heat lifts this pollution miles into the upper atmosphere, strong jet stream winds carry these toxic plumes over massive distances across entire continents. Dr. Augustin Collet, a lead scientist at the French National Institute for Industrial Environment and Risks, analyzed air quality data during the recent outbreaks and uncovered shocking numbers. His team found that the fire plumes pushed fine particulate pollution levels up to 20 times higher than what is considered safe air quality for human health. Even more alarming was the fact that dangerously poor air quality was recorded up to 400 kilometers away from the actual fires. This means that millions of people sitting safely in distant cities, far removed from any physical danger of fire, were breathing in heavy concentrations of microscopic soot without even knowing it. These tiny particles are small enough to pass deep into human lungs and enter the bloodstream, triggering respiratory issues and cardiovascular stress. The environmental impact of a megafire is never confined to a map boundary. It transforms the atmosphere for an entire region of the world. Did you realize that toxic smoke from a forest fire can travel 400 kilometers and poison the air in cities hundreds of miles away? If learning about these hidden atmospheric impacts opens your eyes, hit that like button and post your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our deep dives into the powerful forces shaping our world today. As we look at the situation unfolding right now, the crisis across southern Europe is shifting from a series of isolated summer events into a continuous, ongoing battle against a changing climate baseline. High-pressure weather systems, often referred to as heat domes, are remaining parked over the Mediterranean for weeks at a time. These stubborn atmospheric patterns trap hot, stagnant air over the continent, blocking cooler ocean breezes and preventing rain clouds from forming. This persistent heat creates a compounding effect on the landscape that worsens with every passing day. As the sun beats down relentlessly on the same areas week after week, the soil loses every trace of underground moisture, a condition researchers call extreme soil drought. When the soil dries out completely, it can no longer absorb heat or help cool the surrounding air through evaporation. Instead, the parched ground acts like a hot frying pan, reflecting heat back into the air and driving temperatures even higher. This dangerous feedback loop means that once a heat dome establishes itself over a region, the risk of explosive wildfire growth increases exponentially each day it remains in place. Firefighting agencies across France, Spain, and Italy are finding themselves caught in an endless cycle of emergency response. As soon as one major fire is stabilized after days of exhausting effort, another blaze breaks out just a few miles away, leaving emergency crews with zero time to rest or repair their damaged equipment. The financial and social toll of this continuous fire crisis is reaching staggering proportions across the European Union. Recent economic assessments estimate that wildfires and related heat disasters cause over €2.5 billion in direct economic damages every single year across the continent. Farmers are losing ancient olive groves and vineyards that took generations to cultivate, while timber industries see millions of valuable trees destroyed in a single afternoon, leaving small rural communities struggling to recover financially. Furthermore, the disruption to critical public infrastructure is creating severe challenges for modern city life. High-voltage power lines often shut down automatically when heavy smoke and ionized air pass through them, causing sudden power outages for thousands of homes during peak summer heat waves. At the exact same time, municipal water systems face intense strain as water levels drop in reservoirs just when firefighters need millions of gallons to combat advancing flame fronts. Beyond the immediate physical destruction, researchers are deeply concerned about the long-term impact on natural ecosystems and soil stability. When a sixth-generation megafire burns through a forest with such extreme heat, it does not just burn the plants above ground. It destroys the organic seed layer buried deep within the soil. The intense heat bakes the ground into a glass-like, waterproof layer that cannot absorb rainfall when storms eventually arrive in the autumn. This creates a secondary disaster known as post-fire flooding and landslides. When autumn rains finally fall on a burnt landscape, the water cannot soak into the scorched earth. Instead, millions of gallons of rainwater sweep down bare mountain slopes, picking up loose ash, mud, and burnt debris to form massive mudslides. These roaring rivers of mud wash out mountain roads, destroy bridges, and pollute local drinking water supplies for months after the flames have been extinguished. How do you think towns should adapt to protect themselves from these growing climate feedback loops and secondary disasters like flash floods? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your active participation helps our channel continue to produce detailed, high-quality content on the world's most critical scientific challenges. To truly understand where our planet is heading, we must zoom out and recognize that what is happening in Europe right now is part of a global pattern affecting forested regions all over the Earth. From the massive boreal forests of Canada and Alaska to the vast eucalyptus woodlands of Australia and the coastal ranges of California, fire seasons are becoming longer, hotter, and far more unpredictable. What was once considered an isolated regional problem has evolved into a shared planetary challenge. Fortunately, scientists, forestry managers, and emergency planners are not standing by helplessly. They are actively developing innovative strategies to rebuild human communities to be far more resilient. One of the most important shifts involves rethinking how forests are planted and managed. For decades, many European countries planted dense monocultures of fast-growing pine trees for commercial timber production. While these pine plantations produced wood quickly, they also created dense, highly resinous fuel beds that burn with terrifying speed during heat waves. Forestry experts are now advocating for a return to diverse, native, deciduous forests filled with broadleaf trees like oak, chestnut, and beech. These native broadleaf species retain far more internal moisture in their leaves, creating natural fire breaks that burn much slower and cooler than dense pine forests. By breaking up massive pine plantations with corridors of broadleaf trees, managers can create natural speed bumps that give firefighters a realistic chance to contain advancing flames before they reach human settlements. At the exact same time, cutting-edge space technology is revolutionizing how emergency services detect and track new fire outbreaks in real time. The European Union's Copernicus Earth observation program utilizes advanced satellites, including the Sentinel satellite fleet, equipped with high-resolution infrared thermal sensors that can detect tiny heat anomalies on the surface of the Earth from hundreds of miles in orbit. These space-based eyes scan the continent continuously, spotting small sparks in remote mountain areas long before human spotters can see smoke on the horizon. When an anomaly is detected, automated algorithms analyze wind speeds, fuel moisture levels, and local terrain to generate real-time risk maps that are sent directly to mobile units on the ground. This space-age early warning system allows firefighting teams to rush to new ignitions within minutes, suppressing small blazes before they can gather enough thermal energy to produce fire clouds or sixth-generation megafires. Technology is giving humanity a vital line of defense in an increasingly volatile climate landscape. Yet, beyond the satellites, airplanes, and computer models, the ultimate heart of this crisis remains the incredible courage and solidarity displayed by everyday human beings on the front lines. Across Spain, France, and Italy, thousands of career firefighters, local forest guards, and brave community volunteers are putting their lives on the line every single day. Working in 36-hour shifts under suffocating smoke and scorching heat, these dedicated individuals embody the resilience required to navigate an uncertain future. Neighbors are opening their homes to strangers who lost everything in the evacuations, community centers are organizing food and medical supplies for displaced families, and citizens are uniting to rebuild their damaged towns. The story of Europe's wildfire crisis is certainly a sober warning about the power of a changing climate, but it is also a powerful testament to the strength of human compassion and cooperation when facing immense adversity. As we look toward the future, understanding these complex environmental feedback loops empowers all of us to make informed choices about energy, land management, and environmental stewardship. The mystery of how fires create their own weather is no longer just a fascinating scientific quirk. It is a vital piece of knowledge that every person on Earth should understand as we adapt to a rapidly changing planet together, sharing scientific insight across all global communities. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and support clear, accurate science storytelling, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single upload. We want to hear from you directly, so drop a comment below answering this question. Do you think extreme fire clouds will become a regular feature of summer weather where you live? Please share this video with a friend or family member who loves deep, fascinating stories about our living world. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and we will see you in the very next video.